All right. Okay, everyone. So I'm about to start streaming. This is a demonstration of IBM Bob. I want to show you some of the skills that I've been building in terms of how to create modes and how to create rules so that Bob can do things super effectively. And I also want to show you how to build a little app, small, simple app that will ingest raw company text and convert that into markdown files that represent an internal knowledge base that can then be given to an AI to help that AI understand what is happening at an organization, use it as knowledge, use it as to build an organizational picture, and to essentially be able to develop and create for that company without us having to restate all the important things. So I created this knowledge system plan alongside Bob, and we're even going to be creating the sample document inside of Bob, but we could of course ingest information from many different company Word documents, and we could have Bob go into a website. So there are a lot of things that we can do. So if I just jump in here, give me 1 second, I need to connect my charger. Okay, I'm back. So now that I've connected my charger, what I'm going to do is let's start by analyzing the plan we have created in at knowledge system plan and see what we can do with it and where to start. Because again, we're creating a little directory that essentially will represent the operating system of a company. So the workspace is completely greenfield, and it's analyzing the plan. It's giving us 5 steps with which to act, and it's giving us key design notes. And all right, so it's actually recommending that we start subtasks 1 and 5 in parallel, that they have 0 dependencies. So let's start with subtasks 1 and 5. Are there any architectural considerations I should be making? Okay, now we're getting some sample inputs. We're getting some scaffolding. So the sample text parser specification will be written against this sample. The sample text is ambiguous. So one decision to make before starting, which enterprise archetype should we build it for? So let's go with professional services as an example. So we have that decided, and I would say yes. Let's do both. So again, I think an important thing to mention about Bob is that under the hood, it is using frontier models and using the frontier models in such a way by routing the different prompts to the right models in such a way that it makes the actual execution of the AI cheaper, because for a smaller task, it's going to use a smaller model. For a larger task, it's going to use the complex frontier models. This is actually a really easy way for you to keep track of yourself and how you develop, so you don't overspend the company's tokens, and so that companies at scale are not overspending and using giant models for tasks that could be done a lot more simply. And we've tested this internally at IBM, so And we've built a lot with AI. I mean, the internal adoption of Bob is skyrocketing. Everybody, most people have licenses, and it helps on so many different levels. And it's been wonderful to watch the product evolve over time. So here now we have a README that's audience facing and scannable, and it's written for you as a potential user for Bob. And here we have the architectural decision locked in. So now that we have all of these complete, so here's our raw input. Let's just take a look at it. So it's a company called Meridian, and of course Bob is generating this, and we could actually set off Bob to do some internal company research. And if we had an enterprise knowledge system in place with documents, and we could have our agent just go out and read those documents and build a complete picture. And of course, we would need to go in and verify and understand and verify that all the intelligence is correct, so that then this may build upon it. So let's go into subtask 3. Oh, subtask 2. Let's build the ingestion script. I also want to show people what Bob rules, modes, and skills are. So let's build that. 2, and create an explanation for each right here in the chat. And that's the beauty of steering these models, right? So you're going to see that as Bob is operating and creating, it really is able to understand my intent and translate that into code. Now, I will say, the more intelligence we have about the code and how it operates, the more judgment calls we're going to be able to make as we engage in our development process. So that's why it's essential for you to build rules, build skills, build modes, so that you can guide Bob to do certain things in certain situations. For example, you might be working with your security team, and your security team might have a very effective step-by-step process that ensures that things in your company are secure. So that, instead of being generated by an LLM, can actually be articulated by someone. For example, by voice note, that can be recorded, and then we could ask Bob to potentially convert that into a skill that it can then use to go about that security process in such a way that is very deliverable, that is very repeatable. And that's the same for a lot of processes at organizations. We can make them into skills. Now we are dealing with an intelligence layer that is made 100,000 times more effective when we condense particular actions or tasks into skills that then we can give to agents. Some agents might be specialized in different things like HR, finance. This agent is specialized in code. So here we are, we're extracting different things from our text file, and it's being super adaptable, right? And we could actually have an LLM agent running this in the background and continuously changing the company ingest file and the way that the organization is structured. So it's moving through, and it is understanding that it is getting feedback from all of our processes, and it's ingested all of our entities and all through all of these functions. So we have a final output against the raw input that we gave it. And and now it's giving us an overview of rules, modes, and skills. So a rule is a persistent behavioral instruction that's baked into Bob's configuration. So they're always going to apply. For example, never speculate about code you haven't read, which will trigger the investigate before answering rule. another rule that I like to use is always document all parts of these code and update the documentation every time code changes. And modes are role switching contexts, so there might be different modes. For example, you might just use agent for writing, modifying, and running code. You might use plan for designing an architecture and breaking problems down before touching the code. You might just ask for questions without Bob taking any action. You might have agent creator, which designs agents for orchestrate and knows the abstract language that orchestrate operates in. And so, you know, and then we have skills, right? And then skills are what I was referring to earlier. It is that intelligence, that ability to do something in a particular way. And for example, the expertise that a financial expert carries in being able to analyze the company's numbers is not the same expertise that I will carry as an individual. So I might want to interview a financial expert at my company and understand what his process is like, and then take the contents of that interview, take that process, and build that into a skill that then Bob could use to run analysis on something financial and give that to an agent that I can just build with Bob using the agent creator mode, for example. Another skill I could teach Bob is here's the skill of designing a user interface. Maybe Bob's, or maybe any AI's default way of designing an interface, default methodology based on its reasoning, is not as good as a UX expert's. So I could build a skill alongside a UX expert that would allow Bob to perform even better. I think it's very important to learn how to build skills. So let's move into subtask 3. And actually generate the markdown. So here we go, moving into subtask 3. And while that does that, I just want to open a little window in parallel and tell Bob, please explain the fundamentals of this project. Is there any legacy code in it? And it's going to, of course, say no, but the point I'm trying to get at here is that we have the ability to run code with Bob and see if there are any problems with it and fix it. We also have the capability to understand architectures and give Bob an understanding of the architecture so that it can then create things that are based on the architecture we have designed. So just so that you understand what we're doing here is converting unstructured company descriptions into organized machine-readable knowledge that teams can actually use and that Bob could actually use as skills or information that it leverages to create assets for the team, to create code for the team, to create new things for the team. So if we go back here, it's asking us for an input. We have safe controls in place so that Bob does not go out and do things blindly. So it's validating our process. It's written a few of these things end to end. Good. We have a glossary definition now that breaks down everything we need. Bob is rerunning the pipeline now that it's made some fixes. So let's wait for it to do that. Okay, perfect. And something I always recommend with these agentic programming tools is, listen, do one task at a time. If you give it too many tasks all at once, you risk the ability, you risk it just not doing things well and not focusing on the immediate task at hand. I know there's a great quote from the pragmatic programmer: don't outrun your headlights, don't do too much. Same with AI, because if you're not validating and checking things as you go, you risk losing vision of the project to a degree where you don't understand fully where it's at. I think architectural ability to envision is an extremely important skill nowadays, and will allow you to see further, and seeing further within the constraints of what a computer can do is extremely effective in this age of AI development. And they're saying that 10x programmers are now 1,000x programmers. There's so many different workflows you can create. So let's build the final subtask and showcase the output. And we'll just do a quick adjustment here on the camera so you can see it better. Okay, perfect. Clean end-to-end run. And verify the missing file guard. Okay, both paths work perfectly. Let's render the final showcase. So we're just navigating our file system, and we're about to see our showcase output, which Bob likes to create. I like Bob because it'll design a really clear picture, clear explanations of whatever I have done with it. So that can always be very nice, and we can always create Bob rules that will do it in our company fonts, make it really simple for us to showcase the things we're building with it. There are so many things we can build with it. I mean, the world is your oyster nowadays because you can use your skill of articulation, the skill of your vision, the skill of the ideas in your mind to actually create something incredible. So now let's look at this generated knowledge base. Perfect. So now we have company overview markdown, products markdown, values markdown, glossary markdown, and here we go. So here's our mini knowledge system of what the company can do, made with Bob, including glossary definitions, and of course we can use our glossary definitions at scale, and we can build data intelligence to help us and our AIs understand the complex, unstructured sea of documents that often exist at companies and help AI make sense of that. So now I want you to design skills and Bob rules based on the operations of this company. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to do this yourself, right? So you can actually have Bob generate your skills and knowledge. You can ask Bob to do things that it already knows how to do because it has its own skills. It has its own self-awareness. Not self-awareness, I don't want to get too philosophical, but it has an ability to see what tools it can use and use them. So this maps to 4 focused, non-overlapping skills in 1 rule files based on the 5 practices of consultants writing SOWs, maintaining RAID logs, and preparing QBR decks. And there's a structured way to run the engagements because the Meridian is again, this company we invented is a consulting company that will structurally deliver engagements. They have their own methodology. They have their own method. So let's have Bob build those skills. And then these skills can be used to use Bob to actually run an engagement and use Bob to create code for a client or use Bob to create agents that then would be deployed in an environment. Or these skills could be simply something that we agentically create by navigating a lot of files and then giving to someone as an insight. In this new realm of agents being extremely specialized at different tasks and moving in central nucleuses or central brains and getting something done in a larger swarm, it can be extremely effective to build these agents agentically, right? Because that's what Bob is. It's an agentic coding development platform that can help you build code and help you build agents, which are code. So here we go. We created some skills. Here are some rules that we have that we want to ensure that our agents are running and that Bob is running. So intellectual honesty, client over process, one firm, stewardship, continuous learning. It has different terminologies. And then here are our skills. So delivery health check. Is engagement good? Then we have an engagement kickoff. Then we have knowledge capture. Then we have QBR prep. And so all these different things to help Bob do things effectively and accelerate our development process. So this is one day in the life of developing with Bob. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this stream. There will be many more to come. So always here to help. Message me any questions and drop it in the comments. And if you want to learn how to use Bob, just reach out and we'll have a one-on-one session or have a session with your team. Always happy to help. And again, this is Matthias Acosta with IBM. So have a good one.